the land of 10,000 lakes, a remarkable movement was born. Welcome to Hometown Hero Outdoors. We are dedicated to honoring our military service members, veterans, and first responders by providing them with unforgettable outdoor recreational opportunities. We believe those who have served and sacrificed so much for our country and communities deserve a chance to reclaim their spirit and find healing in the great outdoors. This is Hometown Hero Outdoors.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Hometown Hero Outdoors podcast. I am excited today. We have a very special guest with, David up in New England. He's been on the podcast before. He is the regional director on the board for now, right, David? At least I'm going to hook you in, and you're going to stay here, right?
Yeah, hopefully. Sounds good.
And then we have a very special guest, David Marciano from Wicked Tuna. Sir, thank you for being here. I appreciate you taking time out of your day.
Yep, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Dave, I'm just going to go through your bio real quick, and then I know you got a busy day here, so I don't want to keep you for too long. But Dave Marciano is one of the well-known captains from the reality TV show Wicked Tuna, which airs on National Geographic Channel. The show follows several fishermen based out of, I'm going to slaughter the name. Help me out. Help me out.
Gloucester.
Thank
Gloucester,
you.
Mass.
I'm terrible.
Like Glosta, Gloucester.
I can't say it. I'm sorry. So they go out to the Atlantic for bluefin tuna, a prized but difficult catch due to its size, strength, and competitive nature of the industry. Marciano is recognized not only for his skill and experience, but also for his straightforward, resilient personality. And then also, Dave, you are a huge advocate of conservation and looking forward for the future with future generations when it comes to angling out in the ocean and across country, right? So
yeah, in fisheries in general, I do want to say, not only angling. I'm a commercial fisherman the past 4 decades as well. So I believe all fisheries have a place, both recreational and commercial. And, sometimes we rub elbows out there, but, every fishery has its place and its needs.
No, it's fantastic. It is all about conservation. I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm actually a game warden here in Minnesota. So I do appreciate the conservation side of things, and that's a really good thing to do. And ensuring that our future generations have the ability to use the resources that we have the pleasure and the access to, and just making sure that it's all sustainable for everyone. So
absolutely.
So about your show, Wicked Tuna, man, how many seasons has it been? 13?
13 seasons. Now, I don't know if you guys got the news yet, but, we got canceled this year. So 13 seasons. Last year was season 13, and there will be no season 14, which is unfortunate. It did catch us off guard as, for all 13 years, we were Nat Geo's #1 rated show, both international and national. So it kind of caught us off guard. But, then at the same point, we knew this wouldn't last forever when it started, right? And personally, I never thought it'd go more than a season or two. So, my thoughts is the ride is over. But look, if my 15 minutes is up, it lasted 13 years. What do I get to complain about?
No, that's a good ride. That's a really good ride.
You know what I mean? So, and it's only unfortunate because of the fans. Of course, I would have liked to have done more. After all, it is an economic opportunity for me. I got a paycheck out of the deal. So, I'm going to miss that. But, again, I'm thankful for the opportunities we did have.
No kidding. I remember watching the show from the beginning, so when David told me that he knew someone that was going to connect you guys, that was a pretty exciting deal. And David, I know you're in the New England area, New Hampshire, and you made a connection with Jake, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and then Jake is one of the cameramen that helps with Wicked Tuna. And how did that all go down, David?
I actually don't even remember. Somehow I stumbled across the message from him. We started communicating years ago to line up a trip, and it took a couple of years due to weather and everything else. And we were finally able to line up a trip this past summer to be able to get out there with Dave's 2 boats and Bob Cook's boat and had a great time. The weather was not the most ideal, pretty rough. A lot of people were doing a little over the side of the boat chumming for us. All in all, I thought it was a great trip.
Calling the dinosaurs. Hey, we've all been there, right?
Yeah.
Some more than others, probably.
Yep.
No, that's fantastic. I remember last year, due to, I think there were some conditions that happened too, where some of the fishing was stopped due to the warmer water temperatures, and you guys had to end your season early.
For us, well,
Yeah.
I mean, we never really ended the season early because of water temperatures. But the fishery does change, and we operate on a strict quota. Though, what's lost in the show, right, is we have an overall quota amount of fish that we can catch for the year, right, for the
Right.
calendar year. Now that gets broken up into 3 sub quotas, right? And so often the show is filmed during one of these periods when the fishery is open, for like the first, and we usually bang it out the first sub quota, which is the largest chunk of quota. It's quota that it's allocated for June, July, and August, right? And it's the largest chunk of the quota of the season. Um, But that doesn't mean it'll be open all 3 of those months. If once we catch the quota for that sub period, we're done. So we could catch, and it's happened in the past, by early in July, we catch all the quota for that first sub period. And again, sometimes they'll come back and film in September when it reopens for another 1 month sub period. And again, you saw how boring that was for me to explain that. So we're not going to explain that in TV time, right? We're not going to, we're just going to go, okay, this is the period of time we have to fish. So what you might be referring, again, might have been lost in translation as we went from one sub period to another sub period during filming, if that makes sense.
It does.
But again, that's why it's hard to explain the way we manage our tuna fishery. And that's why we didn't talk about it on TV, because it's not the most interesting part.
No, it makes sense. You got to keep the people attentive to what's going on in the show.
Right. But we do all that. Behind all that, it's all tied into our sustainability. Right.
Well, that's good.
That's how we manage our fishery.
And how you got 13 seasons out of it.
Exactly. Right. And I'll give credit where it's due. I mean, it was the production company. Look, I'm just doing my job. I'm just going to work. And, they're the ones who film us. They look over our shoulder. And they're the ones, though, that through all the years for all the boats, they called out those moments that actually made good TV. You know what I mean? Because I'm not a TV person. I'm not an actor. I'm not an entertainer. But after, they sit on the boats and they watch us and they carve those moments out, which is very little of all the overall footage they have of any given boat. And it's, moments in time that kind of made it fun and made it good TV.
There's a lot going on behind the scenes.
Exactly. Yeah.
I did a documentary with Officer Eric Matson here, and just
okay.
And that was only a film crew of Eric, 2 cameramen at the most, and then myself and 1 editor. And I mean, minimal resources, and with Nat Geo, obviously a lot more.
Right.
So, and I saw how much work it was just to do ours. I can't imagine what it would be.
Right.
To make 13 seasons worth. That's pretty extensive.
Oh yeah, yeah, and that was all. Pilgrim Studios out in LA is the production company, so they would do all the. They would be their cameraman on the boat, and we'd have 1 guy on each boat. And then they had a team would take over when we would come in with a fish. The shore crews would take over, and that was much more personnel because that's where they wanted to get all the different angles, with the different cameras. Because let's face it, everything we shot on the boat was all about the offload. That was the big moment, right? So it was important to capture that, and then that all went out to LA on every trip we get in. immediately that got downloaded and went out to LA, where it began the scrubbing process, where they, actually began to start to make that TV show we knew as Wicked Tuna.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about David, about your upbringing. Like, how did you get into fishing in this career path?
All right. My father sold insurance, right? And he didn't know how to even put a worm on a hook. He never really took me fishing, right?
Yeah.
I did have one uncle, though. My father's youngest brother, my uncle Joseph, he was the one uncle that took me fishing a couple times when I was a kid. Now, unfortunately, he passed away from leukemia when he was 27.
No.
And, I was about 8, but he was that one uncle who took me fishing to do that stuff I really loved, right? And as a kid, I'll never forget, that was my first experience, with death as a child. And plus, it was that favorite uncle, if you will, right? So that's why when my son Joseph was born, I named him Joseph David, kind of after that uncle. Because again, in my father never understood my passion for fishing. He never knew where I got it from. In Gloucester, especially, there's a lot of fishermen. Their fathers were fishermen and their fathers before them, and it's a multi generational thing. And, I was just the outlier, or one of, there's other guys like me, but I just had a passion for fishing and, ran down that road with all that passion that I had. And again, that all ties into the conservation thing. I want to be sure for those other guys who are like me, those young kids with just a dream to go fishing, they should have the same opportunities that I had.
No, it's fantastic. And so then you got on the big ocean. Do you remember catching your first bluefin?
I do. I was probably, I think I was 19 to 20 years old. I had already been fishing for a long time. I had my first job on a boat when I was 11. Just taking on local tour boats and charter boats. And, I worked in that industry pretty much through high school. And then after high school, I graduated more, towards the commercial end of fishing. So the commercial fishing industry, gill netting, long lining, dragging, all that type of stuff, all the traditional commercial fisheries. And in that time was, the first time we went tuna fishing, and we did it. Although, we used hand lines to catch our first few fish because they were cheap and we were commercial fishermen. A rod and reel was quite expensive, but those fish were worth money. So, commercial fishermen would do it. We didn't need to buy a rod and reel. We figured out how to do it with a hand line, and you would sell the fish and you'd make the money. And that was the simple premise of what we do. And, today, that tuna fishery, again, is an outlier. But it's all tied into our sustainable fisheries. Even though it's a commercial fishery, the only way to prosecute that fishery is with a hand line, a rod and reel, or a hand thrown harpoon, right? We can't use nets or long lines. And that's what makes it a sustainable fisheries. And in that sense, I really think that bluefin tuna fishery we highlight is, really should be considered an artisanal fishery. We're very selective. We catch these fish one at a time, all by hand. It's not factory trawlers. And that's been, one of the key things, the takeaways, I think, for the audience. And it's something that I've been proud of is the way, people have gotten to see that commercial fisheries oftentimes in this country are given a bit of a black eye, and we're labeled as commercial fishermen like we're some sort of Vikings out there, and just, pillaging with no concern for the future. And when it comes to commercial fisheries, nothing could be further from the truth. Commercial fisheries in this country, just like the tuna fishery, are persecuted with a future in mind. And I'm very proud to be a part of that.
No point of working yourself out of work.
Exactly. Even if it was as basic as we're labeled as a bunch of greedy fishermen, where's all the profits tomorrow if I catch all the fish today? Even I'm smart enough to know that.
Right.
Of course, we want sustainability.
Well, and also too, you look at the bluefin and how you guys do catch them, like you're talking about, and it's not an easy task, even when you do hook in, and how much time it does take to get a fish into the boat. And then even if you get it to the boat, don't you have like a size limitation too, where you might not even be able to keep it?
Oh, yeah. And we, again, all our fisheries have size limits. It's pretty much, these days in fisheries management, it's standard operating procedure. Size limits are based on the concept is, and it goes with any fish, with any fishery, with any size limit. The idea is that you're allowing the fish to spawn 2 or 3 times before you harvest it. And that way, in theory, even though, each fish may have hundreds of thousands of eggs, they say, maybe only one of those will make it to be a reproducing adult. So if you allow a fish to spawn 2 or 3 times before you harvest it, in theory, you're leaving 2 or 3 for the one you're taking, thereby creating a sustainable fisheries. Um, and that's how we manage many of our fisheries in this country. And I think, U.S. commercial fisheries are leaders in the world when it comes to successful fisheries management. I think we've done a really good job at running that balance between what's best for the fishermen and, of course, what's best for the resource, the fish.
Hi, this is Phil, podcast producer for the Hometown Hero Outdoors podcast. I know your time is valuable, and we thank you for listening to our podcast. Can I ask you a favor? On whatever podcast platform you are listening to us on right now, could you please give us a 5-star review? It is very helpful when growing our podcast and expanding the message of HHO. Thank you. Now, here's a word from our sponsors. Voted Best Electrician 7 times between 2016 and 2022, O'Neill Electric was established in 2016 and is located in the Stillwater, Minnesota area. They provide commercial, industrial, and residential electrical installation and maintenance services. Their team strives to be the most helpful electrical contractor you'll ever work with, from the office to the field. Licensed and bonded in both Minnesota and Wisconsin. Go to their webpage at o'neillelectricmn.com. Founded in 1922, the Minnesota Police and Peace Officers Association, MPPOA, is the largest association representing licensed peace officers in the state of Minnesota and fights to maintain the highest ethical standards in the profession. Licensed police officers with the MPPOA membership have access to the Legal Defense Fund, homeowner and auto insurance, have a voice in the Minnesota legislature, and more. Go to MPPOA.com for more information. Relentless Defender set out to design clothing apparel that police officers could wear with pride. They sell only top-of-the-line apparel, bringing you custom soft ink designs not found anywhere else. Relentless Defender makes it a priority to give back and donates a portion of all sales to various police charities. They stock all products and ship out same day whenever possible. Visit them at relentlessdefender.com.
No, I agree, and we do have commercial fishing here in Minnesota, more tribal side of things, but I see how close they do regulate some of that too. And so I can kind of relate, not the same body of water, not the same type of fish, but I can see that too. But no, sustainability is massive. Again, like earlier, why work yourself out of work?
Right.
And the amount of time and the equipment that's invested. I mean, the hard merchandise. I can't imagine just what the maintenance is on that type of a boat.
Oh, yeah. And look, and I run one of the most efficient boats on the show, right? That boat, you could buy for what, like Bob Cork's new boat there or .com, you could buy 5 or 6 of the hard merchandise. That's an old boat. It was a fixer-upper. She was built in 1984, right? So that's an old boat. Damn near 40 years old, or is 40 years old, right? So
yeah,
he's had a lot of facelifts over the years, and a lot of rebuilds. because that's what a guy like me does. I'm good with my hands. I can manage that. You know what I mean? And for me, it's not about comfort. For me, it's about efficiency because, the more efficiently I can run the boat, the more I can bring home in a paycheck to the family. And ultimately, that's what it's all about.
That's great. Oh, and then so got to give a big shout out to Jake Aiken again,
Oh,
and
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
he's the cameraman that has been with you. I don't know how long has he been filming the show for with you.
Well, Jake wasn't really filming the show. He filmed, um, doing a bunch of other things. And it all started, he was one of the original guys I met after season one aired, I think we started working with the Wounded Warrior Project, right? So another organization. And though I think, again, now I don't understand the politics of everything. So I just wanted to help guys out and take them fishing. And, so I started working with Jake on many other projects, after we met though, in that initial um, type of trips, doing the same thing, just taking guys and gals fishing. Because after all, that's all I could offer. Um, and again, and in my life, what it's meant is, in the past, before the show, sometimes even if I wanted to help people, I couldn't because financially I just wasn't in a position to do anything, right? I was too busy just trying to help myself and, take care of, a family of five, right? So when things got better with the show, I felt it was, a great opportunity. It was a great opportunity for me, so why wouldn't I want to find ways to give back, right? I'm a big believer in karma. So when I got the opportunity, again, it was early on, working with the Wounded Warrior Project, to take guys out fishing. That's how all of this started, and I've since, worked with so many other groups like yourself.
That's awesome. And David, you organized the whole trip with David and the other boat captain. And I'm pretty sure you had people throwing elbows to go on the trip.
Yeah. It was quite the organization, trying to get everyone, because people don't, I think, understand where Gloucester is and where, the logistics and trying to get people out there and everything else.
And then you got the connection with Jake, and then we tried. I think you tried this not this past year, but in 2023, and then 2024 you're successful. So just walk us through what that looked like, and then talk about the trip a bit.
So first off, I was just trying to, you obviously working around, the captain's schedules and stuff like that. Because again, when they're donating a trip to us, it's money out of their pocket that they're not bringing home. So arranging a schedule and trying to find out, obviously, the season that we can be out in. And then, the biggest thing of everything, and, is trying to find, hopefully it's a good weather to get out there. These captains are used to being out there in the worst of storms, but you got to realize some of the people going on the boat, especially if you're not near the coastline at all, have never been out on big water before. And then logistically, it was just picking everyone and getting everyone there. It can be a ways out there. Gloucester's out there on the coast, and there isn't, small little fishing village compared to other places. And it was a nice coordinating everyone to get everyone out there. Chris Irma was able to make it out and enjoy the trip. And even if people didn't catch a lot of fish because the seas, everyone that went out there, and I still hear it to this day, had an amazing time being on the three boats that were out there. Getting, coming home and having fresh haddock. And some people went a little crazy when they got back to the shoreline of the fish markets, getting other seafood and stuff. You headed back in.
Why wouldn't you? I mean, I would. I don't get fresh seafood where I'm at. I would too.
No fresh lobster out in Minnesota?
No. We get crayfish, but freshwater crayfish in the middle of nowhere, and they're not that good, and they don't fill you up very much.
Are you eligible for the public safety workers 10% penalty exception? There are some out there teaching our brothers and sisters some things that just may get you into a lot of trouble if you don't really truly know the facts about what this exception means. What did Ronald Reagan say? Trust but verify.
I remember you telling me just recently too, like how much your guys' lobster is going for, as well as man, what are the scallops? Thank you.
Yeah.
Are the prices
Yeah,
pretty low?
When you're out here on the coastline, and you know, Dave can testify to this. You know, I don't buy lobster when they're like, you know, $11, $12 a pound. They'll dip down in the summer times, down as low as, you know, 6, 7, sometimes as low as $5.99 a pound. Scallops will dip down sometimes, you know, low 20s and stuff like that. But that's our backyard, so
right.
you know, we don't go as crazy for it as, you know, someone who doesn't get it as much.
Oh man, I could eat it every day.
You go to any of our stores and stuff like that, all of our fish is fresh. It's none of this previously frozen stuff.
Right.
You could go right down to the docks, whether it's on the seacoast, you know, Maine, Mass, New Hampshire, and buy it right off the boat. You can't get any fresher than that.
$5.99 for a pound of lobsters. I mean, that's better than, I mean, that's beef here.
Right.
That's pretty amazing.
Yep.
But yeah, no, it sounds like it was an absolutely great time. I hear people talk about it all the time, and David, I appreciate you doing that for them and everything that's happening, you know. And the big part of this is all about mental health and the things that help our members, people who have served. You know, what does it do for you mentally? Not only does it lift you up being out in the outdoors and experiencing catching those big fish, and what does it do to you or help you with helping the others mentally?
Oh, to me?
Yeah.
Oh, look, no, again, going back to the very first trips I did after that first season, right? And, you know, again, all I did was take people fishing. That's what I do. So it was like, oh, I can do that. You know, they said, oh, you know, somebody had an idea. And I was like, oh, no, I can take guys fishing, guys and gals fishing. And the appreciation right out of the get go, right, from those first trips I did, you know, those people left me with the feeling you would have thought I gave some of those folks a bag of gold, right? Just by their reaction to me taking them fishing and then watching them interact with each other, you know, without knowing exactly what they were talking about. You knew it was important to them, right? So to kind of be like part of that, but seeing them, you know, enjoy that and seeing it seemed to be very beneficial to them, right? Like, so when it was all over and the smoke settled and we did the trips and we took those people fishing, like right here, it made me feel good about myself. All right. So maybe you could say I did it for selfish reasons and why I wanted to do so much more of it. Because again, right here, I felt good about me. I felt good about Dave. Like, okay, I'm doing the right thing with the opportunity that was given to me.
No, it's fair. That's good. I mean, it fills your cup, you know, and
Right,
then
right. You know what I mean? It just, I think as individuals, you know, in our lives, we all look for those things, you know, along with why are we here and what are we doing and our own family lives and all that. It's like, you know, we all want a purpose. And again, it made me feel like I was doing the right thing with my life and you know, in that act of helping others, if that makes sense.
absolutely. I mean, you have a talent and you have the ability and the assets to help in a way that is well known to you. Kind of like for me, it's networks. You
Right.
know, I being in the professions I have been, my network is huge. And being able to ask people to help or give back in different ways. I'm not necessarily going to be like, hey, you got to donate everything. But at the same time, just being able to connect people is significant. And you and yours is fishing and
Yeah.
with the assets you have available and your network as well, really.
Right. And you know, again, it just, I guess realize, I didn't realize I had something to give, you know, again, and they allowed me to, you know, they made me feel good about what I was doing. Again, I didn't think it was much, but again, you could tell by the reaction and by the response that to them it seemed like to be a lot.
Sometimes a little bit goes a long ways, especially when you don't know you need it.
Right.
And all of a sudden you're like, man, that's exactly what I needed. And we see that in a lot of our surveys we do after our trips happen. We do ask about how was your mental health before, how was it after, and there's improvement every time. It's pretty amazing. So I appreciate everything you do. And I know you're a busy man and you got things to get back to, but I know that the season is now done for season 13 for Wicked Tuna. And you have recently opened up your own store. Do you want to talk about that a bit?
Oh, yeah. No, that's one of the things. Yep, this year we opened up Angelica Seafoods, which, by the way, too, if you look angelicaseafoods.com, we ship seafood anywhere in the continental U.S. So if you want that fresh, local Gloucester seafood, we can ship it to you overnight. Now, that being said, it's expensive to do that. And we're talking air freight when you got to get the seafood out there.
Right.
But, so it's not cheap. It's not inexpensive seafood.
But it's fresh.
But it's all U.S. wild harvest. That's my shtick. I'm here in it to support U.S. commercial fishermen. So all the fish we do sell is U.S. wild harvest, primarily from Gloucester. And we can't ship it to you anywhere in the country. Or if you ever get out here to Gloucester, you can come on down and visit our store.
Gloucester. I said it.
There you go.
I did it before the podcast is over. Gloucester. So
Chris, you just got to remember anything that ends with an R, drop the R and add
I can't just say the R. Gloucester.
Yeah. Just add an A, you'll be fine.
Hey, I mean, I got the Minnesota accent too, so I'm sure you're picking up on it as well. So, well, David, I really do appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you for giving back to our military service members and first responders. It's been a treat, and I know that we hear a lot of good feedback on that trip, and it gets talked to about. And I do hope that we can do something more together in the future. And I think we're gonna have some other boat captains come on at some point. But I appreciate David Gray getting the connection out there and being able to communicate everything here. But just want to say thank you one more time.
All right, and thank you for all you guys do. And thank you for your service.
Absolutely. Does anyone else have any last closing comments? David Gray?
Just thank you, Dave, for everything you did, and hopefully we look forward to some future stuff with you. And again, thank you for being there and supporting the military and supporting Hometown Hero Outdoors.
I'm happy I'm able to. And yes, stay in touch, David. We'll make it happen again.
Thank you. Love it. So listeners, just want to tell you thank you for tuning in. And one of the things that we're trying to do this year is also make sure that everyone is fully aware that they have options out there for their mental health. You're not alone. There's plenty of individuals here that are here to help. We have David Marciano, who is here and has brought people out to help and to reach out if you're in need. We have our assist training, which is the applied suicide intervention skills training, which many of our volunteers have. If you're in a time of crisis, we'll help get you off that ledge and we'll be there for you. It will help you find additional help. Otherwise, 988 is the crisis line. If you're in a crisis, you can always do 988, which you can text and or call. And we're here for you. People want you to be here tomorrow. So thank you for your service. Thank you for your time. And thanks for tuning in the Hometown Hero Outdoors podcast. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
The Hometown Hero Outdoors podcast is made possible by the following sponsors: O'Neill Electric Contractors, the Minnesota Police and Peace Officers Association, Relentless Defender Apparel, and Financial Cop Financial Advisors. Thank you for listening to the Hometown Hero Outdoors podcast. For more information, visit our website at hometownherooutdoors.org.